happens when two strangers with completely different opinions meet for dinner. In this brand new social experiment, people from all walks of life are paired up with their direct opposite.
Hello, hi.
And guided through a menu of questions specifically designed to promote discussion, disagreement and debate. Will they agree to disagree?
The Big Bang was made by God.
I quite like Donald Trump.
Why have you got milk? It's meant for calves.
Could they end up bonding over shared life experiences?
It's tough being alone sometimes, you know.
Tolerance has to be a two-way street.
Life is something that you have to fight for.
Or will it be fireworks from the get-go?
So what do you feel about sending family members to slaughter?
Why did I say yes to this?
I don't agree with everything that you just said.
If something doesn't affect you, mind your own fucking business.
This is Eating with the Enemy. In this restaurant, strangers have agreed to meet with their direct opposite for dinner. Over the course of their meal, a selection of carefully curated questions will cut through the small talk and reveal the truth of who they really are.
Is protesting effective?
What is the most difficult decision you've ever had to make?
Should influencers expect to be trolled?
Watching all conversations are two experts, there to observe the behaviour of so-called enemies meeting face to face.
In this day and age, communication has really changed. You either communicate with somebody in your social bubble or with people with opposing viewpoints on social media. You're not getting the non-verbal communication from the person, you're not meeting them face to face, and it's kind of this trigger-happy, I'm just going to send this comment, tweet right there and then without any accountability.
We generally don't sit down with people from opposing viewpoints because of many facets in our society today, like cancel culture, for fear of offending. There's no debate. There's a homogenous idea that's accepted, and therefore there's no discourse.
Eating with the Enemy is an opportunity for people to meet face to face and to share their opposing viewpoints, but not only that, to actually share their deepest vulnerabilities.
With everything ready to go, let's meet our first candidate.
My name is Claire and I am a content creator and I'm from Mayo. I'd like to have a conversation with somebody who's willing to have a conversation. I'm really interested in the thought process behind opinions. I try not to push my opinions on people. But yeah, I'm opinionated and I'm pretty feisty when it comes down to it. I guess I can't understand why people really care what other people do, actually, is the key one, especially if it doesn't affect you day to day. I want to be a part of this show because I want to challenge myself to listen and to converse about a differing opinion to mine.
Claire has come to the right place, so let's meet her dinner companion.
How are you? My name is Barry John. I work in technology sales and I have a podcast, and I'm from Blackrock in Dublin. How I would best describe myself in one sentence would be very, very handsome. I enjoy having a debate. Not everyone's going to be the same as you. It doesn't mean that I'm always right most of the time. I'm not going to say that I'm not open to people's opinions and whatever, but I seriously doubt anyone's going to be changing my opinions. What's going on?
Hi.
How are you?
How are you?
My sparring partner.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
My
too.
name's Claire.
Hi, Barry John.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Barry John.
Barry John.
I like it. Two first names.
I know, yeah. Yeah, very strange initials.
So when Barry John sat down, I totally stereotyped him. Like a Geordie Shore character.
You're on the wine. I think when Claire saw me, I think she was maybe thinking that I was a bit of a dickhead. We've got a question. So the question is, what stereotypes do you think you live up to?
Easy one, the short, redhead, fiery stereotype, I suppose, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I feel like I've met a couple of Barry Johns in my life, but I probably haven't taken the time to find out what they're about.
People might have a certain perception of me as maybe being chauvinistic or something like that, but I don't think I am chauvinistic, to be honest. So.
Fair enough, yeah.
Who who's next to eat with their enemy.
My name is John. I pastor All Nations Church in Dublin, and I'm from Blessington. You could say I'm living my dream in getting to preach the gospel every week. I guess the thought of having a conversation really appealed to me because I think, part of the problem in our society right now is we're becoming very polarized, very divided, and social media has compounded that. I think we're talking at each other rather than talking to each other. Some of the things that make me angry, certainly coerced speech would be one of them. I think, the freedom to speak and the freedom to think are sacred, God-given gifts. The worst person for me to meet today, I guess, would be somebody who's more focused on making a point than having a conversation.
Here to have dinner with Pastor John is Bill.
I'm 50 years of age and I'm from Cork. I think I'd best describe myself as sort of gregarious, I'm friendly, maybe a happy fool, I don't know. I believe in an equal society and I believe everyone should get the same opportunities. I wouldn't like to meet somebody who is very radical and is somebody who is determined to not listen to what I have to say.
My name is John.
Hello, John. How are you? Bill is my name.
Bill?
Bill, yeah.
Nice to meet you, Bill.
You too. Where are you from, John?
From Kerry originally.
Kerry, all right, I know.
Living in Blessington.
Oh, very nice, thank you.
So.
Very good. All right, cheers.
I was actually looking forward to talking to him, because I guess I didn't have a whole lot of preconceived ideas, and I guess that's why I was looking forward to talking to him, that we would maybe tease out some of the issues and get to know each other a little bit better.
What do you do?
I'm a pastor.
A pastor isn't somebody I'd ordinarily meet in everyday life. I just don't get religion.
So, as a pastor, you must have very specific values that you live by.
Yeah, I suppose as a Christian, I'd be a pastor of a Bible-believing church, and so, for a Christian, I think the Bible is like our constitution, in that it certainly plays a major part in forming the values that you hold.
Sticking to the letter of the Bible is something that I've always thought was, I just couldn't agree with that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, here comes dinner. Lovely. That's great. Thanks very much. Very nice.
So I'm just going to... my food, you're fine. In Jesus' name, amen.
We really judge with our eyes. We're a very visual species. In the moments when we meet someone from a different point of view or a different belief, our mind is incredibly active. That comes from an evolutionary part of our brain to identify and spot threat.
People would be in a heightened state of alert in a situation like this, and they'd almost expect for things not to go well, and they're actually looking for cues in the other person. They're asking themselves, why have I been paired up with you?
Do you believe life is harder as a man or a woman?
I don't think, as a rule of thumb, women are treated or have it harder than other people.
But if we were to look at the stats, male CEOs versus female CEOs, or male politicians versus female politicians, and we dig down into maybe why that is, why don't, and you could say that, well, people don't vote for women, but why? We need to figure out why we have this inherent bias.
Okay. And that's a good point, but here's what I would say to that. Historically, I think women would have opted to go down different career paths. Let's say you're a fashion buyer or something like that. Being a fashion buyer mightn't pay as high as being a solicitor or something like that, which is probably has more males doing it. And so if you're looking at the pay disparity, you've got to look at it across the board and see, okay, what careers are people choosing to go down?
So there was just once or twice where Barry John made a generalization, maybe about women, all women do this, or all women get paid this, or whatever it was, that I did find it hard not to just rebut that. But I wanted, to let him talk and let him express his opinion. I wouldn't go as far as to say we have all of the equal opportunities. I think that there's some ways in which it might be a really subtle difference.
Elaborate.
It's very hard not to go on like personal kind of experience, but like colloquially, there are times where somebody might be just as qualified, but yet not get a job.
In my personal opinion, it's been shown that when women follow the same career path as men, there isn't a major pay discrepancy. I think it's some women decide to go down maybe a career that doesn't pay as well. On my podcast, I talk to a porn star. Porn stars get paid a ton of money, right? If you're female.
Maybe we shouldn't say like all women in porn get paid more, because that's not the case.
In professional porn it is. Like unless you're talking amateur porn. I think porn is actually a good example where there's a pay disparity, but it's actually in the females' favour in this industry. Why? Because the females, they're bringing in the money. Do you think porn is derogatory for women to do?
No, I think that there is definitely safe ways and like totally ethical ways that you can do porn. 100%.
It's great during lockdown.
The diners in this restaurant are taking part in a social experiment to see what happens when total opposites meet for dinner. During their meal, a specially designed conversation menu will steer the discussion. For Pastor John and Bill, that discussion is about to get deeper.
Which world leaders do you admire?
Well, I know this is probably going to be quite contentious, but I quite like Donald Trump. No, I mean, he mightn't have the most winning personality at times. I understand he can be quite abrupt.
No, he's a terrible person. There's just so much wrong with Donald Trump that I just can't I don't know where to start, because he has this sneer towards other people. He's like this spoiled, rich kid who believes that everybody should be working for him or doing stuff because he says so.
I find his lack of political correctness very refreshing.
Trump deserved to be booted out. He really did. Well, I wouldn't have him running a company, and I mind a state like the US.
It's nothing to do with his personality. I would have a very different personality and maybe a way of dealing with people, but I respected his...
You can't say that Donald Trump was a good Christian.
To me, it's not about personality, it's about policy. Irrespective of whether he has a good personality or not, to me, I agreed with many of his policies.
Who's next to join our social experiment?
My name is Emer, I'm a teacher, and I'm from Bray, County Wicklow. My friends would describe me as very opinionated. I love that I get to work with kids every day and have some sort of influence on their lives. I had struggled growing up with like self-confidence, even though they might look at me and say, oh, Emer is really confident, that they know that I wasn't always that way. I have no problem with people having their own points of view, but I can't just stand by and listen to something if I completely disagree with it. Like, I'd have to throw in my 2 cents.
It's time to find out who's having dinner with Emer.
My name's Aisha. I'm originally from India, but I've been in Dublin for the last 10 years. I'm very vocally passionate about homeschooling. I think it's very important that people recognize that families have the right to choose the way their kids are being educated. It also gives my children the opportunity to choose what they want to do apart from the set curriculum. I think I'd be nervous about meeting someone who's rigid in their mindset and who's not open about someone who'd have different opinions. But I believe that great things can be achieved over a meal and a healthy conversation.
Hello. Hey. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
My name's Aisha.
Aisha?
Yeah.
I'm Emer.
Emer, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, yeah.
Have you come from far today, or?
Bray.
Okay.
What about you?
Okay, so not too far from you, I'm in Sandyford.
Sandyford?
Yeah.
Oh, grand, yeah. Nice one. I think she was nervous. She looked kind of like she was nervous.
I didn't know what to expect and, you know, who I'd be paired with, and I was kind of a bit afraid.
We have chosen key questions because we believe that this will connect the diners on a very emotional level.
Without the questions, the diners would probably focus a lot on the small talk, but they really wouldn't maybe get to that nub of their insecurities, their vulnerabilities, and that's why it's important to have them.
Ooh, hello. When people meet you, what do you think they see?
Well, people do stereotype when they see me. They see a woman of color, a Muslim woman, probably a refugee, possibly on social welfare, but that's all untrue. That's wrong.
Yeah, it's just automatic stereotype.
It's crazy,
and judgment.
yeah. I've had people come up to me and say, "Oh, you speak English."
I just can't express enough that, you know, the way that people think Irish people look, or the typical Irish person, is no more.
How is everything going at Claire and Barry John's table?
Do you trust the government? I don't like Fianna Fáil.
Me neither.
I hate Fianna Fáil. They ruined the country. People in this country must have a very, very short memory.
The options are so limited, especially, like, I'm left of centre, so there's next to no options for me, really. Like, the Greens, Labour...
Building cycle lanes everywhere can piss off as well. Like,
why?
The cycle lanes, it's just getting a bit over the top now.
I'm afraid to cycle in Dublin city centre. I'm delighted they're putting in more cycle
but I don't
lanes.
mind. I don't mind putting in the odd cycle lane. But Jesus, you're talking about making the road outside my estate one way now, and then they're saying, "Oh well, you'd have to cycle into work." That's all well and good if you live in California. What if it's piss and rain one morning?
That wouldn't be something I thought that people would be vehemently against. But we have to cut down on the... And I'm a driver. I'm one of the worst drivers. I actually should take the bus more, and
That's
this is one thing.
Women drivers.
Well, I meant in terms of volume, but I'll give you that one as well, yeah.
What was a big turning point in your life?
Ooh, what a question.
For me, probably living a lifestyle which wasn't very good for me, or wasn't very positive.
Yeah.
Only in the last 3 months since I've given up drinking, and where I'm not actually drinking, where I'm like, I don't know, it's like I'm a different person, where I've got this positive mindset, and I'm back training every day, and I'm getting really passionate about it.
I was trying to think about this and pick one. I suppose big turning point in my life would have been when my mother died. Just because it was very unexpected. I was just about to start a master's, so I must have been like 23. I feel like it made me grow up really, really quickly. I grew up with my mum as a single parent.
Okay.
So my dad's still very much in the picture. I love my dad very much, but we just lived in a different county. So it was me and my mum all the time, and she was always there for me to lean on. I feel like I'm a different person now because of it, and I often think about this and I wonder, if she hadn't died, would I be the same person? And I genuinely don't know, because I feel like it really pushed me out of the nest, and it really made me
out of your comfort zone.
And it made me like stand on my own 2 feet, and I think it made me eventually, like, overall, it made me like a softer person. Like, it made me maybe a more thoughtful person in the long term. He was so respectful and so thoughtful in the way that he let me talk. And even his body language, his face was really kind, and he was really letting me have the floor there. There was part of an emotional maturity that came around through that process that I was like, well, basically I took on the life motto of like, don't be a dick. And like I try to live by that now, and I try to be really thoughtful about how other people are feeling, or what So that's a big turning point in my life, I think. Yeah, if I had to pick one.
If you sit down and have an authentic experience with someone and connect with them, it can absolutely change your previously held belief.
We can change a polarized world by actually just using our ears to listen to somebody and to really hear why they feel the way they feel and how they've come to that belief.
For Emer and Aisha, it's a main course of delicious food and curious questions.
Have your priorities changed over the years? That's a good one. It's funny, right? So I played basketball over in the States, and sports would have been my life. And then when I had my kids, then
Sorry, how many do you have?
I have 2.
Okay.
We're like the United Colours of Benetton. There's like every shade. So, like my daughter is totally white.
Okay.
So my husband is white. So like when I hold her, like it's like I just stole somebody's baby. Just ran off with a child. And then my son is quite dark, like he's quite a bit darker than me, and then me.
That sounds lovely, actually.
It is. It's so nice. Like, but it's so unconventional, that kind of way. Like, I know when people see us, they're like, oh, how can I figure that out now? I don't have very many friends that are a person of colour, to be honest, and so it was kind of refreshing To be able to have a conversation surrounding that topic and somebody get you straight away. I played basketball for Ireland.
Oh, wow.
So you can imagine you've got Ireland on your jersey, green jersey, you're singing your national anthem. Like, I was so proud. And I had come back from an Irish training session and we were in the train station, and I had my jumper on, my Irish jumper on, and we're both in matching things, sitting on the ground. This woman walks by and she goes, out of absolutely nowhere, just goes, "Go back to your own country, will you?" And walks past me.
That must be so hurtful. Like,
yeah, it is because it's your identity.
Yeah,
you know, and you're being questioned on your own identity.
Yeah.
We're not born with that hate. Like, that's a taught thing. Like, my son's best friend has blonde hair and is white, and they don't see color. They just know they love each other because they have the best crack together. And it's hideous to think that as humans, we take that innocence from children because of what they're hearing us say and how we treat people.
We've both been told to go back to our own countries, and so yeah, we could relate to that. And it's nice when someone can actually understand and acknowledge and validate what you've been through.
Meanwhile, for Pastor John and Bill, their conversation is not shying away from big topics.
Do you believe a woman has the right to choose?
For myself as a Christian, I believe that every life is sacred, and therefore I'd be opposed to abortion in every situation.
I know, but I think the question is very specific. Do you believe that a woman has a right to choose?
Well, again, it's, I suppose, how you frame that question.
No, it's not about the framing now.
Yeah.
Has a woman, an individual, a right to make a decision for herself about that?
Of course she has a right to make a decision for herself, but again, the issue for me is that it's not just the woman involved, there's another person, a human person in her womb. And so, for me, like, every life is sacred, and therefore it's not just her body, it's the body of this baby. I mean...
But it's not a baby until it's born.
Why is personhood conferred upon a person by going through the uterus? I mean, to me, that's a human being. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "I know the plans I have for you," says the Lord. Jeremiah 1:5, "Before you were born, I knew you." So, I wouldn't agree with the proposition that, that a woman has the right to choose, because it's not just the woman, there's another human being involved.
I think I describe him as a sort of zealot. He really would be somebody who would be very trying to convince everybody, and I think he would possibly get under my skin a bit after a while.
It's the woman's right, because I believe it is the woman's right to make that decision.
As a pastor, I certainly would have counseled a lot of women through the years. I've met a lot of women who regretted having abortion. I've never met a woman who's regretted having her baby.
I am a firm believer that if the choice has to be made, then the woman has the right to make that choice herself. Whatever about what's written and John, whatever thing from the Bible you quoted there, that has nothing to do with it.
Talking about abortion with a religious person is like, you're not going to get anywhere in that argument.
That right is definitely the woman's right.
With the restaurant all abuzz, who's next to pull up a pew?
My name is Patrick. I'm a tax accountant working in Dublin for the last 20 years. Personal responsibility, or the lack of it, is probably something that does annoy me. We seem to have a culture now where people want to blame somebody for everything, and I find that frustrating. I often wonder what they've done to help their own situation. I want to have a conversation with my opposite because it gives me an opportunity to articulate my views and maybe have them challenged, and I'm very open to that.
Here to have dinner with Patrick is Ger.
Oh, thanks. Not too bad now, yeah.
My name is Ger. I'm a father of 5. I'm a professional triathlete and I'm a full-time coach also. At the age of 32, I was in prison. I was in the bottom of the barrel. At the age of 34, I changed my life around. I'm very passionate about people who are in deprived areas because I grew up and people basically just said I was a scumbag. People need to look a bit further into the root cause of people's life instead of pointing the finger. Why not go back into these communities and try and help kids? You have it all. Go back and give it. I want to have a conversation with my opposite because I'm going to show him the light. What type of jobs have you done in the past?
I've previously worked as a barman in Galway. I suppose I'm an accountant now, but previously would have worked as a barman. Yourself?
I was a professional soccer player at the age of 16.
Wow.
Lived in Darndale, which is deprived area, you probably know it, Coolock.
Yeah.
And even at that age, my dream was to become a soccer player. I achieved that dream, moved over to Scotland, and I was brought back. My father was sent to prison for a crime. I had to look after my 5 brothers and sisters, make a decision not to go back over and pursue the dream. So, as you can imagine, that sent me right down the wrong road.
Yeah, that must have been tough.
Yeah, my dream was taken from beneath my feet. That led me to join the gang, took drugs. Now I'm a professional athlete, and now I'm a coach.
How were you able to make that big switch? Like, you were in drugs in a gang. Was it a one moment thing or over gradual?
No, I was actually sent to prison in 2014.
Examples of good conversation skills would be showing respect for the other person, really listening to them, conveying your point in a clear way.
An open mind allows you to see the world as it is in all its complexity. What we do when we have an echo chamber is we reduce the world down to the viewpoint that we hold. By having an open mind, we allow for the possibility that those ideas might be challenged.
So far, Emer and Aisha have discovered they have a lot in common.
Is homeschooling a good thing or a bad thing?
So I'm a teacher. I teach PE in a secondary school.
From a teacher's perspective, like before I speak about, because I absolutely love homeschooling, as a teacher in a secondary school, what do you think of homeschooling? Do you think...
Really, it just depends on the kid, I think, you know. But in my experience teaching, I would notice that if a child has been homeschooled, when they come and integrate in the secondary level, that sometimes they can find it very hard socially.
Have you met children who were homeschooled previously and then come back into school?
So I've been teaching 12 years, so I've come across a lot of kids that have been homeschooled and then have tried to come back into the secondary level and just really struggled.
Like, children are different. They have different interests, they have different strengths and weaknesses, and homeschooling gives an opportunity for a personalized education that they wouldn't otherwise get in a conventional school setup.
And do your kids like it?
They love it. And
so have they been in mainstream classes in the past?
They have, yeah.
So they did their primary school.
Yep.
So do they not miss the socializing?
Yeah, that's the number one question I get, and it starts getting annoying, kind of like, you know, where are you from kind of question.
Like, my biggest concern, I think, is generally that the kids will lack certain ways of engaging. Like, in school is where I would have, let's say, learned what it's like to be talked maybe down to. We are preparing the kids for the workplace, for interactions with people maybe that they wouldn't necessarily want to be around, but that is kind of work, you know, you're not going to be working with your best friends.
It's not for everyone. Not all parents would have the opportunity. I'm very lucky that my husband works and I'm able to stay home with the kids.
So I'm going to ask you
Go on,
to really answer truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
What is a downside to it?
I don't see it that way, Emer. Because,
there's nothing.
As in, maybe, possibly for somebody else, there might be something that would look like a downside. That might sound like a downside to her or someone who's not used to homeschooling, but do you know what? We're way ahead of the curriculum.
Ooh, if you were another gender for the day, what would you do?
I'd be at home playing with myself all day. Let's say if I'm a female now for the day, and if I want to go out there, I can go out and say, like, literally bang, bang, bang.
As a woman on the internet who gets creepy messages all the time, I'm sure that I could get 3 dates a day if I wanted. I think he was thinking quantity over quality there. I
could be with 1,000 people today, whereas we have to work for it.
What's the most outrageous thing you've ever done?
Jeez.
Wow, that's a question straight out of left field.
Oh, I went on a date with a girl once. It was meant to be a kind of a hookup date. In her photos, she looked like one of these kind of alternative hairdressery types, but good looking, very good looking. So then I parked up outside and I was kind of like sitting there and I was looking in the rear view and this girl comes to walk out and I was there going, that's not her, it couldn't be her. And like, it just did not look like the girl that was in the pictures.
Okay.
At all. So I was like, no way. And so I didn't want to be a complete prick. So I said, look, I'll go to the cinema with you. So I took her to the cinema. So then I was like, listen, this is a Saturday night. I'm not doing this, right? So I asked her, did she want food? I knew she'd say yes to that.
Oh my God.
Went out to get her food and I just left her in the cinema. I drove home. I was like Michael Schumacher coming out of the thing.
Do you believe that where you were born dictates your outcomes in life?
I believe it's not about where you grow up. Your mother and father sets the inspiration within the home.
Yeah.
And like, that can be done anywhere. Doesn't matter where you're from.
I think location can have a huge influence. I think you're in certain parts of the country or you've certain countries, you're going to be disadvantaged from the get-go because you don't go to, the education might be the same. My path is easier because I think I was born, middle class, and it's get an education, go to college and all that. It's all safe, sheltered. But if you are born in disadvantaged areas where you're not encouraged, it is harder.
It is if you haven't got a good mother and father. Living in a place will have an impact because if you're with the guy down the road that has no mother and father, he could be taking drugs. You could have that chance of meeting him, being your best friend, and then you end up dabbling in drugs. So that's the difference in living in a nicer area than a deprived area. That's the only difference, I would say, there.
Well, isn't that maybe deprived areas, like maybe there's a higher likelihood of less stable families?
100%. That's why do we have deprived areas?
Yeah.
Why do they stick out like a red like a beacon? We all know where they are.
I grew up in a supportive, loving family, but I think there comes a point in time when you have to accept, your own life. Now, it's easy in my position, having a comfortable childhood, but unfortunately, where that doesn't happen, you're dealt those cards, unfortunately, and somehow you have to come, whether that is counselling, but I think you have to come to terms with that reality and move forward.
If you pick the right programme for these people to engage with, right? So you have to use the head, the street sense. I have a degree in bullshit because I've been through so much of my life, so I know what works and what doesn't. You can't just get these governments to come up with these solutions. They haven't got a clue what works for deprived people.
Well, how much more do you want the government to do?
I want them to focus on deprived areas, give us something back. They just forget about us. They don't give a shit. I do, I'm telling you. I've forgotten about. No one helps you.
I mean, who are you expecting someone to come and knock? Sure. Like, is that not an unrealistic expectation?
No.
But what are you hoping?
What I'm saying is to get these youth centres within these communities, that we can get the kids in and inspire them ourselves. But if we don't do something about it, then it's just going to be we're going around circles.
Pastor John and Bill's meal has been one big topic after another.
Right, do you believe in God? Well, I guess you do anyway. I do too, but I don't know if I believe in religion. I believe that intrinsically we're born good.
Yeah, I disagree on that one. I don't believe we're born. I mean, obviously a child is innocent, but, there is that sin nature within us that necessitates us believing in a saviour. And I suppose in regards to organised religion, to me, that's the only religion that you can really relate to. Otherwise, it's kind of something that you're making up yourself as you go along.
Not if you're educating yourself and that you don't just swallow everything that's thrown at you as gospel. You know what I mean?
That's why, I would encourage everybody to read the Bible for themselves.
It's not very thrilling, let's say. But it's just the way it's written, I think. It could do with a bit of a freshen up in terms of the language. I suppose I learned that people are very committed to what they believe in. And it's admirable in many ways. But it also confirmed for me that religious people are difficult to have a discussion with. And finally, what did you like about your dinner companion today? You were a good old swashbuckler, I must say, in terms of having a discussion with. I'd always find time to have an old spar, can you say? As long as you didn't get too preachy, you know, leave that to the four walls of the church or the chapel or whatever it is.
The one thing I've learned from eating with the enemy is that even when you disagree profoundly with somebody, it doesn't necessarily mean they're the enemy. They can be a friend.
And so I really enjoyed talking to you tonight. Yeah.
Okay.
You seem like a good guy. Yeah.
I try to be a good guy.
I'll be praying for you.
I do.
For Patrick and Ger, they've discovered they have very different views on many things.
How important do you think it is to vote? Yeah, I think it is very important to vote.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do, yeah. Or if you don't get involved, then I find it very hard then to listen to people that don't vote, but they expect things to change somehow.
Okay.
Now, Ger, tell me, do you vote?
I don't vote.
Ah, Ger,
I actually don't
I could have
vote.
respected you.
I tell you why I don't vote. Every time a new government comes into power,
Yeah,
they don't follow through on anything that they said you voted for.
right.
People promising you this, promising you that.
Yeah.
They just don't follow through. I don't trust them.
He's a foot in both camp if I was being harsh. He's one foot more strongly in the actually doing to make change, but he's got one weaker foot in the camp of not believing in government or it's the government's fault.
I'm not going to change the world or the country with my vote. So it's easier for me just to go, do you know what?
Yeah.
Do what you want to do.
Yeah.
I don't actually care what you do because it doesn't affect me in my life or my family. That's more important to me than anything else.
But it does. But I mean, you're not contradicting yourself there. You're saying it doesn't affect you, but it absolutely does affect you. If you think about you say you grew up in a deprived area. I mean, policies are made to decide where funding is going. So at one point you're saying, I want funding. You're looking for government, and yet you're saying, I don't care. And you're in a privileged position in one way. You can use your tough upbringing, your journey to where you are now, that you've a voice that people can listen to.
Yeah.
And I think you should be encouraging those individuals that you get involved in society. You can make a change. You should be encouraging, go out and play football, do your sports, look after your mental health, but also get involved in society.
Okay.
You know, I think...
Yeah. No, point taken. I don't know, like, to be honest with you, I don't think one vote is going to change that, but I suppose if I can change my thought on it, if I can vote and then try and get other people to vote, because I know a lot of people that don't vote in deprived areas, because they're like, sure, nothing happens anyway. They don't see change.
Teacher Emer and homeschooling parent Aisha have agreed to disagree.
And finally, what did you think of your conversation partner? I love talking to you. It was really nice. I was pleasantly surprised. I was actually wondering all morning, why did I say yes to this? Why do I do this to myself? If Emer is the kind of teachers that secondary schools have, that's a great representation, and that's a great representation of diversity and open-mindedness, and she probably has a very positive impact on her students. I think it's been a great conversation and we could relate on so many levels.
Yeah, we definitely could. I enjoyed it as well, and I was like, I was a bit anxious, thinking, okay, now, I wonder if this will end up in a big row. You just never know.
Yeah.
If you're able, teach the content of the curriculum to your child, which I'm a teacher and I wouldn't feel confident doing that for every single subject area. Like it's a tough ask if you ask me. But if you're up to it, then have at it. I don't know how you do it. I actually don't. It's impressive. When my son's going to school, I'm like, bye.
I understand what she's concerned about, but I am also very open-minded, so if circumstances change and my kids do need to go back to school, I'm open to that as well.
I think having conversations, it's such a great way for growth. She can say, I actually homeschool, so this is what it's like for me. So instead of me reading about it and thinking, no, I don't think it's good, I could hear from her, she has had a great experience with her kids, and so that's positive.
Dinner is now coming to an end. How was the experience for you?
I've enjoyed it. It's been an interesting experience. I probably disagree with you about the government and all that, but I suppose what's obvious is I haven't lived your life either.
Yeah.
But I would still think politics is important.
Yeah.
I think you should get involved. You're 3 years out of jail, is it?
Yeah.
Like, I think you're only getting going.
Yeah.
I would like to see him actually getting out there himself and articulating more clearly his own ideas, you know, what it is, and being that, because I think by putting himself forward, he'd become better at articulating it and then more educated in how it runs at a high level.
You're right, 100%. I should look a bit more into it, especially go to a TD and try and get some more insight and, you know, trying to help on a bigger scale. What I'm going to take away is that instead of talking about stuff, I need to put it into action. And Patrick has sort of given me an eye-opener there. I really enjoyed it, I really did, like, and I feel I learned a lot today, so I'm very grateful for the experience. The life that you've had is what I'm trying to generate for other people.
Yeah.
So credit to your mother and father for giving you that life. I was a kid that hadn't got that life, and I've lost so much. So if I can save one kid's life by changing the father and mother's mindset to help that kid on the path that you were on, then that's a winning formula. So that's what I'm there for. So thanks very much for your time.
The one thing I've learned from meeting with the enemy is to be grateful for the life and opportunities that I've had. To meet someone like Jared, to realise there's so many good people out there that are positive, that don't make excuses. It's a good thing to be reminded about, maybe to seek out positive people. You know, these are guys that want to make a difference. Where's your contribution?
For Claire and Barry John, their conversation has covered everything from cycle lanes to dating disasters to porn.
Okay, so what social stigma does society need to get over? I feel like there's a societal stigma about miscarriage. And the reason that I say that is because I actually had one recently and I've been very open about it. And ever since I've been very open about it, so many people have come to me and said, oh my God, like, I went through that as well. I know that when I decided to share it, like online in particular, I was very worried. I was worried that some people who maybe were pro-life might say negative things because I've been a very publicly pro-choice woman on the internet for a very long time. Do you know? And I was really worried somebody would be like, well, you deserved it or whatever.
Sure.
And to be fair, I mostly got positive support, but I definitely did feel like it was a little bit of a hurdle. I had to be like, right, I'm making this decision to make this public and I have to take all of the consequences that come with that, you know?
I'm very sorry that happened,
Thank
and like that stigma does need to be torn down. When Claire spoke about her miscarriage, I couldn't commend her enough for that, and I think more people need to be shining lights on things like that and help people. It's crazy because kind of in society we say a lot of things and we say we should do a lot of things and be there for each other, but then we act in a different way sometimes. In this country, before we had the gay marriage referendum and things like that, like I remember talking to some of my own friends and even some of my family members, and people were saying, oh, I don't think this should be allowed and whatever. If something doesn't affect you, and if it's causing a hardship,
100%.
if it's causing a hardship on somebody else, mind your own fucking business.
I couldn't agree with you more, 100%.
It's very important to converse with people who are different than you because it broadens your understanding of the world and it gives you perspectives. Opposites should always be meeting because that's where we learn, that's where we develop. We should always be open to another point of view.
What I'm hoping people take away from today is that we all have judgments, and judgments are okay to have, but we need to question those judgments so that we become less fearful of the so-called enemy.
Throughout the conversation, the stereotype that I had in my head totally changed. That is like the core of my belief system is if it doesn't affect you,
fuck off.
Do
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
The one thing I've learned from eating with the enemy is Barry John is always right.
I like you, and I totally didn't expect to like you before this. Like I was saying, I had like a nightmare about it. Like I totally thought we were going to be like fighting, and you know, I thought it was going to be maybe not a positive experience, but this has been a really positive experience. And I think over the time that we've talked, we've actually boiled it down to we have exactly the same belief. System at its core is that we're like, let people live, which has blown my mind. So yeah, I've learned a lot.